The New Ultimate Universe, Part 1, Ultimate Invasion. Chapter 1, Good Artist's Copy. We begin on Earth 616, 2 months before the present day. A crew of mercenaries break into a damage control facility in New York, using a variety of sci-fi weaponry to breeze through security, collecting keycards on their way towards their goal. After inputting password 1610 into a keypad, they find their client and their target, Reed Richards. Except this is not the Reed Richards they know, this is the Ultimate Reed Richards from Earth 1610. Created by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Miller, Ultimate Reed grew up with an abusive father, pioneered an experimental dimensional teleportation system as a teenager, was selected by the Baxter Foundation to upscale this machine to help the government contact the alternate dimension that he had reached, which was then sabotaged by Victor Van Dam, and instead of spaceflight, a terrifying no-clip through the end zone is what gives the Fantastic Four their powers. The four have adventures for a few years, but it all comes crashing down after Reed went through a series of traumatic incidents. First, his first contact with another Earth was in the form of being tricked into walking into a zombie-infested Earth, backdoor piloting the Marvel Zombies title. He spent months being manipulated by Ultimate Thanos into making a cosmic cube, which consequently made him a pretty crap teammate and boyfriend. And later, while Magneto was flooding the eastern seaboard during the critically panned Ultimatum event, Reed abandoned the team, assumed Namor was at fault, and charged off to fight him like a fool after Sue had hospitalized herself holding back a tsunami. After all that, Reed fumbles while trying to tell Sue how much she means to him by showing her the ring that he'd tried to propose with before the wave hit. But this gesture isn't enough, and the Fantastic Four split. Reed, feeling the weight of years of regretful decisions, finally goes off the deep end, no longer wishing to play by the world's rules to make the changes he thinks will save it. Faking his own death by blowing up his house and murdering his family, Reed becomes the Maker. During the Ultimate Enemy trilogy of stories, the heroes learn about Reed's betrayal and manage to defeat him, leaving him for dead in the negative zone. Months later, the Maker returned with a uniform that he still wears to this day, constructing for the first time the City, a technological marvel that began to absorb the North German countryside as it grew, with time moving faster within, allowing for centuries to pass in minutes. The Ultimates went to war with the Maker, and then America dropped the Hulk on him, then the Maker blew up Washington, and then there was this whole thing about the Infinity Stones, and also Ultimate Kang the Conqueror is a version of Sue from the future who encouraged the Maker's downward spiral to stop the end of the universe. I'm pretty sure this is just combination foreshadowing of the next thing that's going to happen, and of Secret Wars, which was only a couple of years away. Next, the events of Age of Ultron break reality so hard that regular Galactus gets launched into the Ultimate Universe, where he meets the Galactus swarm and fuses into a single being. Miles Morales and the Maker have to come back to 616 to try to figure out how to stop him, and after meeting Valeria Richards, the Maker seems to have a change of heart about himself. But let's get back to that idea in just a minute. The Maker defeats Galactus with a combination of a giant-sized Kitty Pryde, Thor, and a wormhole to the negative zone. Honestly, go read Ultimate Cataclysm, it's pretty good. The Maker reemerges in the run-up to Secret Wars, where it's revealed that his turn to good was a ruse, and he's been secretly aware of the incursions for a while. Blowing up alternate Earths was much less hesitation than the Illuminati back on 616, but we're not covering Hickman's Avengers here today. After the final incursion, when it all falls apart, the Maker is one of the few protected from the collapse of reality, and plays a role in Secret Wars helping Reed 616 fix this mess. There are some stories with the Maker after Secret Wars in which he tries to bring back or get back to his own universe, both in the pages of Donny Cates' Venom as well as Al Ewing's Ultimates 2, Ultimates Squared. But because the Maker in Ultimate Invasion is a separate body and separate incarnation of the Maker, because he got split across the whole multiverse if you didn't know, I'm just going to not. Sorry. So, that's the Maker, a version of Reed who got a bit of a raw deal and eventually turned into an immoral, immortal maniac bent on shaping the world to his own whims of a perfect future. So back to Ultimate Invasion issue number 1. I said this was going to be brief, right? The Maker asks the crew to take off their helmets, noticing that one of them wasn't on his list. The leader of the group explains it's just unforeseen circumstances, and the Maker is displeased, saying that his message will need to be a little more on brand if he's going to have an unexpected anomaly in his calculations. There was one of my therapists in here who, before I did what had to be done, did have a surprising effect on me. He encouraged and challenged me in a way I did not believe was possible. His ideas of acceptable goals and personal betterment were predictably short-sighted, but he did actually make me want to be a better man with better goals. Before he can explain what he means, the Maker activates a device that liquefies the mercenaries horribly, leaving a clone of himself where he was sitting before. So I'm trying to be better. I really am. But I do have limits. 2 weeks pass. 6 weeks ago, Black Panther and Reed Richards survey a crumbling building and discover that it was a secret damage control facility. With dawning horror, Reed realizes what might be happening. He and T'Challa go to the Maker's prison, and they're taunted by the homunculus as it dies.
Is that really you, Reed? Are you really me? If you can't tell by now, could you ever? 5 weeks ago, the Maker infiltrates the Baxter building and uses a device to scan the world, grinning.
The following day at the Wakandan necropolis, Reed has assembled the Illuminati, who've all been rawed by the Maker as well. From Wakanda, lots of vibranium. From the Inhumans, enough Terrigen to power a city for thousands of years. From Reed himself, a dimensional doorway he didn't know still existed that was hidden at a Stark warehouse, and a Krakoan gate from Professor X which permits mutants alone to travel to and from Krakoa. He also took an immunity lance from the Sanctum Sanctorum and a dilution shield from Atlantis. The Illuminati are slightly baffled by some of these redundant choices, but figure that whatever the Maker is doing, he wants them to know it when he turns it on. At the home of Miles Morales, Miles is woken by the Maker. He explains to Spider-Man some of the knowledge that he's had to relearn since the multiverse died and was rebuilt, see Secret Wars for that, and that the two of them are brothers in a way, and offers him a ride to home. Miles rejects the offer, but the Maker leaves him a card in case he ever changes his mind. That's foreshadowing. The Illuminati confront the Maker as he activates his completed device, explaining that he's going to go somewhere that he can create as he was intended to do at his creation. The Illuminati tries to stop him with a burst of explosive force as the team tries to break through the Maker's shield, but it's no use. The Maker asks one last thing of Reed as he leaves Earth 616 behind. I've often wondered, if our roles had been reversed, would I be any different? Would you? It's why I waited. It's why I left this trail for you to follow. It was for this moment, so I could ask you one simple question. If you could do it all again, if you could really change things, would you erase me from existence?
Yes.
I'll keep that in mind. And with that, we leave Earth 616 and the Illuminati in a world full of marvels far behind, and we travel, for the very first time, to Earth 6160. Epilogue. Great artists steal. In New York City, Peter Parker and his friend Liz Allen are attending a demonstration of the isotopic genome accelerator, with Peter excited for what this machine might make for the future. Above their heads, a spider begins to spin down on a web. I think you're easily impressed, Parker. I think I just dream big. Dream is the right word, because if you think that one day that's going to be you up there, wowing the world with what you've done, well, I don't see it happening. I think you're just an average guy, getting ready to have an average life. But hey, I could be wrong. Who knows, Parker? Maybe you'll get lucky. Before the spider is able to bite Peter Parker, it's killed by a man in a suit with a gloved hand. Such a little thing, but size can be deceptive, can't it? Who knows what kind of reaction you might have had if it had bit you? Maybe nothing happens, maybe something does. The only way to know for sure was to let the little monster have its way with you. I, however, would have had to let it happen while I watched, and with such power, as insignificant in this instance as it seems, comes no small measure of responsibility. And who really wants to live in a world where men like me stand by and do nothing? I know I don't. Ultimate Invasion, Issue 2, Chapter 2, Down the Rabbit Hole.
Yes.
I'll keep that in mind. And so what exactly does one do with the full knowledge of their enemies, and the unlimited capacity to engage them before they even have the faintest idea that you exist? It's simple, really. Whatever one wants. Of course, there will be differences in other universes, deviations and branching possibilities, a twisted mirror which casts only similar reflections. Still, there is an Asgard, and with it a son of lightning and thunder to deal with, a king of lies to place on a throne, a Bifrost to shatter, a rocket launch to delay by hours, and a cosmic storm missed, the fantastic reduced to something more manageable. However, regardless of my actions, mankind will still be slavish to its nature. There will still be wars and weapons of wars, and men who make such things. Bullets will always be fired. Bombs will always explode. There will be fallout to manage, and it will be by one monstrous means or another. But there will also be vacuums, missing bits of history that seem impossible not to be there. For example, I found no man in the ice to murder. It seemed this world would never have had a super soldier to lead them, no paragon of a better time of better men. It was fitting to find a world that craves me. Once, I remade myself, from ordinary hero to maker. Once, I remade a city, and in it I lived 1,000 years and crashed the future into the present. But I look back now on all I accomplished with nothing but regret and the shame of a man who imagined much too small. I can do so much better. Above the skies of New York, Iron Man soars through the air. However, it's not the Stark that we expect. Howard Stark climbs out of the suit, greeted by his teenage son Tony and his longtime business partner Obadiah Stane, and asks for a drink. Howard and Obadiah talk about how Howard doesn't want to go to a summit of world leaders in Latveria, and that Obadiah is the face of the company. But Stain insists that he needs to get out of his lab and let people see his face doing some good in the world, rather than simply inventing medical and scientific wonders to bring to the people from his lab. Howard says that he is going, but that doesn't mean he has to like him, and he certainly doesn't like them, to which Obadiah tells him that he has no idea how much he has protected them both over the years. Maybe not, but the system that they want to protect works, in large part because we are part of that system. To do violence to us would be to do violence to themselves. By God, did you finally agree to go with me to the city because you have schemed up some radical restructuring of what works into something better? Howard, do you have plans I don't know about? In all seriousness, maybe I look out the window and I question what we've done and what we've made. I think all of my gifts, all my abilities, and I wonder, is this it? Is this the world as it is, the sum total of what I am capable of? I tell you now, old friend, I whisper these questions to myself at night and I can no longer accept the answers. Does that make sense to you? More than you can imagine. In Latveria, the press welcomes all attendees to the political summit. Obadiah Stane and Howard Stark, that are American technocrats. Next, from the territory known as the Children of the Eternal Light, the legendary, immortal, enlightened Hulk, a spiritual leader and face of peace across the world. From Hinokuni comes Emperor Sunfire, Viper, and Silver Samurai. And from the Eurasian Republic comes Ilyata Rasputin, Pyotr Rasputin, and Arkady Rosovich, aka Magic, Colossus, and Omega Red. The city opens, and the Maker steps outside. Rather than greeting his guests, however, the Maker looks to the sky. Well, I'm waiting. Above Latveria, a portal opens in the sky, and an army of superheroes crash into the gathering. Hundreds of iterations of Captain America, Thor, Giant Man, the Wasp, and the Vision declare that they are targeting the Maker alone. Obadiah Stane calls in his War Machine armor and tells Howard to get clear of the battle. Unfortunately, within moments he is impaled and overrun, his suit exploding. And as the invaders clash with the leaders of the free world, Howard Stark loses consciousness. Howard, you can wake up now. Can you hear me? What happened? Coming to his senses, the Maker confirms that Obadiah has died in the assault, but that there's little time at the moment. Presented with a glass prison cell containing the surviving invaders, the Maker explains that these superheroes came from the future. Why? That's the question, isn't it? Doesn't it make you fear what terrible things you're going to do in your future? Or does it anger you that they tried to rob you of the chance to have one? Honestly, I'm not sure I ever bought into the idea of static temporal states. No? No cause and effect looping around and round to eat each other? No snakes, no tails? Want to find out? The Maker brings some seemingly regular people into the room before explaining that he's traced the genetics of the time travelers to the people he's brought in. To test the theory of cause and effect, and against Howard's horrified pleas, the Maker's children vaporize the civilians, and the time travelers collapse into horrible temporal goo in response. The Maker brings Howard into another room, the reason he requested Howard to come in the first place, the Immortus engine. The legendary time machine that the Maker explains allowed him to traverse the timeline, preventing the rise of an age of marvels. Howard tells him that this was just his first encounter, that he has to understand the scope of his deeds, to which the Maker says no, this was the second encounter, taking off his helmet to reveal a massive hole in his head where his scarred eye once was. The Maker evolved a long time ago to be able to survive wounds such as these, but it has still damaged his memory. My memory is impaired, flawed, and fractured. I can't trust what I remember because I'm remembering things incorrectly. What I do know is that I need you more than anyone else on this world, and maybe others. Why? Because, Howard Stark, I believe you are the one who built this. Issue 3 starts with the funeral of Obadiah Stane at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. At Stane's grave, Howard and Tony bleakly wish for a peaceful life before Tony asks his father what happened in Latveria after the city opened and the feeds cut out. Chapter 3. Through the Looking Glass. 2 days ago, Howard Stark meets with the other world leaders in one of the Maker's lavish buildings. Emmanuel da Costa, leader of South America, helps introduce him to everyone. Da Costa explains after Howard was stonewalled that nobody speaks directly to Emperor Sunfire when he's wearing his veil, but that he may speak to Viper instead. Twin brothers Khonshu and Ra of the African Upper and Lower Kingdoms have an odd speaking schedule. Ra only speaks when the sun waxes in the morning, and Khonshu only speaks when the moon wanes towards a new moon. Note, I'm not sure this rule is actually followed in Ultimate Black Panther. Sounds cool though. Next, Da Costa introduces Henry Duggery, the Francophone Captain Britain who wields both the Sword of Might and Amulet of Right in his possession. Notable in that the main Captain Britain had to pass a test of moral character by choosing the amulet over the sword. Bruce Banner enters the conversation, discussing the day's attack and questioning motivations for it. I just got here.
Yes, and I regret the event that have led you here, Mr. Stark. And while I, of course, find such random violence unacceptable, I cannot help but notice that the intentional malice against this collective of ours implies a certain amount of planning and forethought. Behind that, I suspect a desire to destabilize all that we have built, a blow against our proactive, peaceful union. Should such mindless and pointless action prove to be the intent, well, that would make me quite angry.
Ilyana Rasputin, Magic, interrupts, demanding that the Maker show himself and that they all focus on finding and destroying the perpetrators. Howard is surprised that DaCosta is speaking to the Rasputins because they're the enemy, referring to geopolitical conflict between the Eurasian Republic and the other regions of the world. Howard admits he never let Obadiah explain the way these things really worked, and debates with the Hulk when the Hulk says that there are no enemies in the room, listing numerous conflicts that have occurred over the years that are apparently laid at Eurasia's feet. The enlightened Hulk explains that in order to maintain global peace, each of the world's 7 territories take turns playing the part of rogue state, allowing and welcoming a false public impression of conflict before undergoing a generation of regret once it's time for someone else to grow in belligerence. My god, that may be the most insidious thing I'd ever heard. While the Hulk says that not all of them agree, and it's possible for individuals to reach a state of peace, it's incredibly difficult for people to maintain that level of peace, and all but impossible for society at large, which the Hulk regrets. The Maker enters, highlighting another point of why they all do this. The citizens hate them, these giants who rule the land. So in a modern society, the easiest path to peace is giving the citizens of the world distractions to hate instead of the people really pulling strings. Howard, disgusted and horrified, asks the Maker, "So if all this well-choreographed dance of yours, is to keep the people happy so that we can get on with the important work that we giants do, do you mind telling me what exactly that real work is?" Mr. Stark. Now we're getting somewhere. It's at this point in the story that we get our first look at the world as a world map. All of North America is part of the North American Union and regional subsidiaries, smaller fiefs ruled by oligarchs and corporations. South America is under the control of the Society of South America, with regional club and fractional cultures taking up the majority of space. Europe is under the European Coalition, with regional governors and fiefdoms beneath them. The city appears to be somewhere in Kazakhstan, and surrounding Latvian territories appear to nearly surround the Caspian Sea. Africa is under the control of the Upper and Lower Kingdoms. Almost. Russia is the core of the Eurasian Republic, with regional directors and local schools radiating outward. Southeast Asia and Australia are under the control of the Children of Eternal Light and the Shadow of the Immortal Hand. And finally, Japan, the Korean Peninsula, and parts of mainland China are Heat no Kuni, the Land of Fire. In the present day, Tony and Howard get on a helicopter from the cemetery, with Tony telling Howard that he needs to fight these people. Howard pushes back, saying how huge a proposition it is, that he's not even sure if he wants to know how much Obadiah knew about all of this. Tony says again, his father should fight, and he should win. Howard says to give him some time, and that all he does is to ensure that Tony outlives all of us one day, and that if he needs Tony, he'll make sure Tony knows. One day ago, before Howard returned to the North American Union, the Maker is escorting him on his first visit to the city, and speaking about the task of repairing the Immortus engine. This is the darkest corner of the deepest section of the city. It's a prison, really, a place where some truly genius work is done. It's also where my nightmares reside, but for now, however, it will serve as your lab. For this is where you're going to build the Immortus engine. And now I want to introduce you to your assistant. I think you'll find him useful. I work alone. No one works alone. We carry the ghosts of our successes and failures, who we could have been, who we should have been, and they haunt us for all our days. Howard Stark, I'd like you to meet Reed Richards. Some say he's the smartest man in the universe, and I have to say, I do agree. Epilogue. All tomorrow's armies. Meanwhile, in a floating citadel in a distant, broken future, a new army of Ultimates is eager for battle. 4,000 years of careful genetic engineering was all for nothing. Despair and the end of all things was before us, but we did not yield. Now we have 6,000 years of better stock, righteous blood, and your armies have been replaced. How much longer must we wait, Master? How much longer can we— Shh. Do you see how he hides? In this game we play, I, ageless and immortal in real time. My adversary, a creature of a temporal vault. A time thief, if there ever was one. And what do we say of pretenders? Their time will come. Tell me of my legions. They are infinite. They are immortal. They are ready to die. This pleases me. It makes me eager. I've heard your cries. I've heard you ask me, Kang, is it time? And so I tell you truly, the time is now. Issue 4. In the city, Reed Richards and Howard Stark are hard at work recreating the Immortus engine. I know secrets. Howard is hesitant but interested, wanting to keep focused, and Doom clarifies the kinds of secrets he has are the kinds the Maker keeps close to his heart, the secrets of how he made the world the way it is. And now, there are 2 Immortus engines. As they complete their work, Doom warns Howard about a flaw in the construction, the need for a feedback mechanism to prevent someone from traveling in time in more than one direction at once, which could split their physical locations and fracture their mind. Howard asks how long they've been working, and Doom tells him that in this place, time flows as the Maker dictates, speaking about how he had once tried to track the length of days with a bit of light on the wall that would move over time, but realizing that the speed of the light kept changing, he said so out loud and watched it suddenly jump, accompanied by the Maker's distant laughter. But the mask, that's no trick. That's who Reed truly is. I can help you escape. Oh, Howard. Don't you understand? You cannot run from who you are. Chapter 4. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. However long it took within, a week passes outside the city while Howard and Reed plan. Howard builds a new Iron Man suit and, wishing Doom luck in their plan, brings the Immortus engine to the Maker while Doom infiltrates another area in disguise. Howard thinks that someone else built the first Immortus engine and that he simply copied and improved on it, suggesting it was one of the Maker's own designs. The Maker's unsure, and that perhaps the Immortus engine is a looping paradox all on its own. Howard says he might crush it in that case, and the Maker tries to reason with him. My dear Howard, don't be rash. If I have done anything, surely I've shown you that, before all other things, we have a monster from the future who we have to kill. He's a monster. You're a monster. I am so tired of choosing which monsters are more acceptable. Doom sets off a device that drops the temporal barriers around the city, and as the Maker asks what Howard and Doom have done, Kang the Conqueror and his army of Ultimates crash the future into the present, right in the middle of the city.
I opened the door to let the wolves in. There, my loyal legions. There he is. There is no cost too high to pay. The Maker dies at any price.
Are all targets acceptable?
All but one.
For the second time in the history of the multiverse, the Children of Tomorrow go to war with the Ultimates. In the choice between the Tyrant from another world and the Conqueror from another time, Howard Stark says he's going to take a third option. Pawns! Pointless creatures! I understand why you do what you do. What else could anyone expect from something designed to creation to die? But you are delaying what has to happen. Stop all this obstruction, serve your real purpose, and bring me Kang.
There he is. I've waited 2 lives for this moment, and now that moment is here.
Howard is knocked out of the sky, and the Immortus engine hits the ground. The pain from his duel with Kang shakes the Maker's memory, and we see the attack he spoke to Howard about. The Maker had arrived in Kang's citadel at the end of time in which he takes over the world. Who am I to you?
You are my Maker, and what you now witness is my origin.
And Kang shoots a massive hole in the Maker's head. On the side of his face, Johnny Storm burned to a melted horror all those years ago. In the present, Howard, with the Immortus engine now in his chest, also knows who Kang truly is. Kang answers the Maker's demand to know what Howard is doing by saying that he is solving 2 problems at once, and that seeing him with all his righteousness is like looking through the fog at some hazy remembrance of what was.
No, it's like looking in a mirror and hating what you see.
With an almighty burst of power, Howard ends the fight. Elsewhere, Doom, telling himself that he is trading a literal prison for one of obligation, takes the Maker's Immortus engine, as Howard is wearing the one that they both built. Howard awakens in the wreckage of the battle, walks over to the body of Kang, takes off his mask, and is heartbroken by what he sees. Outside the city, a barrier goes up over the entire dome as the crowd watches, and Doom leaves with the Immortus engine. 1 week later, the Maker's Council worries. They know that time moves faster within the city, and according to what they can figure out, it's going to be sealed for 24 months of real time, and unknown centuries within. They fear the Maker may emerge an enemy to them all, but more pressingly, they vote to carve up the North American Union on new lines of ownership. At Stark Tower, Doom gives Tony the Immortus engine, information stolen from the Maker, and a letter from his father. With these things, Tony builds himself a suit of armor, deeming himself Iron Lad, until he can come up with a better name. Epilogue. When we hear Howard's letter to Tony. My dearest Anthony, I am so tired of this world. I'm so tired of the people in it, of what they accept, of what they have become. But I know that the fault was mine, maybe more than most because of my gifts and the means that came with them. I was so wrapped up in the good things I was doing, the work and the bounty the work provided us, that I didn't care enough to notice what was really going on in the world I was shaping. I know now that it is a false and fallen world that we paint as good enough, but under its skin we all know it's rotten to the core. And on reflection, almost all of the things I have made do nothing but support the systems that reduce men and women to pawns and playthings, to workers and consumers, to servants and slaves. All the things I have made are tainted with a patina of evil. All of them but one, and that is you. If this has found its way to you, then I am gone, and I've left you a world that is no place for the innocent. But only innocent eyes can see it for what it could be. Remember, Anthony, it's never too late to change the world around you. You just have to fight.
And you have to win.
Okay, deep breath. Yeah, I'm actually talking to you now. Hello, hi. That was Ultimate Invasion, the first 4 issues of the new Ultimate Universe, and the story of how the Maker built himself a world and was subsequently sealed into his own city to allow the world time to be ready to fight him. There's one more issue I'm covering here today, Ultimate Universe, a one-shot that, to me, provides the true first chapter of this story, following Ultimate Invasion's prologue and introduction. Let's dig in. Ultimate Universe. 2 weeks ago, the city was sealed, trapping the Imperator of Earth, the Maker, inside. Now, in his absence, a quiet war has broken out across the planet to shape what will happen to his kingdom. Some want to control the world, some want to free it. Tony and Doom are breaking a prisoner out of a realm beyond Earth. A prisoner who was branded a traitor on false pretenses, and whom has refused to free himself for years. This is Thor. Upon being told that his imprisonment was a deception, he agrees to help after one stop. Thor confronts his jailer, Sif, who guards his hammer as well. Wasting little time, Thor calls Mjolnir to himself, something Doom remarks that he could have done at any time, and the 3 of them teleport away, with Sif chasing behind. At Stark Tower, the 4 of them study the frozen body of Captain America, discussing how difficult it might be to free him, but that they are hard at work at doing so, Thor swearing to free him himself if need be. Doom reiterates the Maker's whole deal about how he has purged specific people from ever becoming heroes to shape this world, and the 4 embark on their next mission. In Latveria, the 4 attempt to break into a facility that should have what they need to kickstart a new world of heroes, catalysts for power. Doom bemoans that the Maker has utterly sealed the force field with the city locked up, but Thor smashes them in. They come to a room full of chambers, and Sif asks if each one contains the relic of a hero. No. Each one holds around 100. Thor speaks about how evil the theft of dreams is, but as he says he's ready to help, he's stabbed through from behind by Captain Britain, responding to the break-in. In the ensuing melee, Tony's mask is taken off and Captain Britain recognizes him as Howard's son, and Tony ruins one of his eyes with a repulsor blast in response. The 4 escape with 1 chamber of catalysts, enough to get started, while Captain Britain frantically contacts the rest of the council about what has happened. The Hulk is the first to see how this can be a gift in their favor, however, as a satellite in orbit begins to power up.
We regret the loss of your eye, Captain. We have all been wondering exactly how to deal with the vacuum of power on that continent and to claim it for ourselves. I now see a path forward. He does not know it, but the boy has given us North America. All we have to do is take it.
And how has he done that, Hulk?
By committing the acts of a tyrant, or worse, a terrorist.
With seconds to spare and Thor wounded, Iron Lad activates the Immortus engine, and in a flash of light, the 4 would-be heroes vanish, an instant before an orbital weapon obliterates Stark Tower and an entire neighborhood of New York City along with it. A fresh look at the world map as the Maker's Council pin the disaster on Tony due to the satellite being of his father's design. North America has now been split up between the European Coalition, the Children of Eternal Light, and the Society of South America, as the wheel turns, right? Finally, one last epilogue. A man reads the news of the disaster, dated a week after the incident.
Against the backdrop of global concern and international aid, it is with gratitude and great sorrow that we do our best to reflect on the events of last week. And while all of us here, and millions around the world, still wait for answers about what happened that day, for now, all we have are questions. Thousands are still missing, and while almost no physical evidence remains, local and international agencies using GPS, digital IDs, and forensic data have been able to create a database of unfortunate souls who may have been in the blast radius of the terror attack. Below me, those potential victims' names are scrolling on the screen. People who, according to both the data and the experts who analyzed it, were believed to have been near the corporate headquarters of Stay and Stark when the event occurred. Authorities need all the help they can get, so anyone who can confirm or deny any of these names, please contact them immediately. And while domestically, these are troubling, strange times, it seems that the events are not contained by our borders. In Hinokuri, a car collided explosively with a bicycle in the streets, and while the driver remains in serious condition, the 15-year-old girl who was hit by the car escaped without a scratch on her. Elsewhere, in several of the dynastic strongholds in the Upper and Lower Kingdoms, there were reports of an outbreak of regional infighting and perhaps open insurgents. Due to the volatile nature of the conflict and an accompanying media blackout, there has been very little coverage of the events. All that we have, we are sharing with you now, and we will keep you updated as we learn more. Finally, we end tonight's coverage with the biggest underlying mystery regarding the recent terror attack. Why would a teenage boy commit this terrible act? Some have suggested that it was because of his father and godfather's recent passing. Others have assumed that it was simple madness. We will continue to try to find these answers to these questions, but as Tony Stark is believed to have been in the blast, it is safe to assume that he too has perished, and it's very possible we may never know why he did it.
And watching this broadcast, catching up on what he missed when he saved the team by jumping into the future, Tony Stark glares. There's a job to do. there's a world to fix, and he's going to need a bigger team. Thank you for watching Part 1 of the history of the new Ultimate Universe, Ultimate Invasion, and Ultimate Universe. I hope you'll stick around to see Part 2. I hope to do this the whole way through, from the beginning all the way to Ultimate Finale, which comes out a few weeks from now from where I'm standing. So we'll see you soon for Part 2, January 2024 to April 2024.